All right, so your favorite ad out of the Super Bowl, go.
What do you think, man? Come on. That's such a...
Crown?
Yeah.
Is that Crown Royal ad?
Dude, Dave Grohl's in it.
Oh, yeah. I loved that ad. That was my favorite ad. I was like, I don't know what this is for. And at the end, they're like, Crown Royal. And I was like,
thank you,
great
Canada,
ad.
which not
I'm
really
not gonna
is
drink
what-
more. I'm not going to drink more Crown, but great ad.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if it's the last whiskey on the shelf, I'll drink it. I'll go to that. No offense before rum, but...
No, I understand. Like, I'll drink Crown Royal, but it is sweet.
Very.
Like, it is a little
light.
sweet to me.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the thing is like, Crown just doesn't do for me because it's too light. It's just like, it's not for me. But if Dave Grohl drinks it and you can be like Dave Grohl, I mean, why not be like Dave Grohl when you can?
Unless you can be Dave Grohl.
Yeah, why?
Then be Dave Grohl.
Yeah, be yourself unless you can be Dave Grohl, then be Dave Grohl.
I've seen that shirt on you.
Did you know that over $5 trillion exchanges hands on a daily basis? That's an average of over $220 billion an hour. Now, how does this much money move every single day, and why does it move the way it does? Here on Drunkenomics, two bartenders who also happen to be students at the University of Nebraska Graduate School of Business are going to sit down and drink to the global economy and try and translate it into English. So sit back, relax, pour yourself a stiff one, and have a drink with us to the comedy that is the global economy. And welcome back to yet another episode, yet another presentation, or whatever you want to call this, of Drunkenomics. This is the drinking podcast with an economics problem. So glad y'all can join us. Hopefully you have a nice stiff one in front of you. Unless, of course, you're about to drive somewhere. Then in that case, unfortunately, you're going to have to wait until you get there. Actually, I mean, be safe out there. But
Absolutely.
With that said, a lot of things, a lot of old trends, as Jeff Bridges would say, to keep on the duder's head, because a lot of economic data came out this week, which is why we held off to record on Wednesday, February 15th. With that said, I should also mention Chiefs won the Super Bowl. I wasn't rooting for the Chiefs, but we did have a bet going that I would be more gracious if the Chiefs won. So, with that said, I would like to welcome us all back as the more gracious host. So glad you all can join us. My name is Aaron Wong, and I'm joined alongside the Pigeons fan over there.
Absolutely. Fan might be a strong word, but if it keeps me less gracious, I'll take it.
Oh, you wanted them to lose then.
Frankly, I wanted them both to lose. Look, this wasn't an option for me.
Yeah. Refs couldn't win outright.
So for the third week in a row, I am James Goldwater, LGH, Let's Gracious Host. Yep. But if you want to join actually the fantastic conversations that were happening in our Discord this weekend, last week, which I meant to jump into, and then I didn't, because I'll be honest, I was very drunk at the time, and I went, that's not drunkenomical to dive in this deep.
Yeah, that's like drunk calling your ex-girlfriend.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's at 3 a.m. It's just a bad idea. But if you want to dive in that conversation, if you want to jump in with us and everything else, then check us out at Drunkenomical, DRUNKENOMICAL. And that is in the metaverse, so Facebook and Instagram, and then separately, not related, not connected at all.
Of course not.
Twitter,
why would it be?
In keeping with the laws of social media. And then on all of those, or maybe not Twitter, who knows what. You can find the invite to the Discord. Free to all.
Free anybody can join. We also have LinkedIn too, so if you want to add us individually, feel free. If you want to, follow Drunkenomics, feel free. We haven't posted in a while. We should probably do something about that. But anyways,
we should.
Yeah, we got a great.
Also find us on TikTok while it lasts. I don't know. There's nothing there.
I need to do something with TikTok. I'm too scared to put my face out there, because believe me, it gets awkward.
I don't want to dance because it'll be bad.
No, I ain't dancing. I'm sorry. I love you guys, but I ain't dancing. But speaking of which, so couple things from the Discord. One, I forget who it was. Was it K-Nello? It probably had to be K-Nello, because, dude, K-Nello, you are so extremely talented, man. These rings are awesome. But he asked, can we do like a live Drunkenomics Discord session? The answer is yes. I just don't know when. We'll make it work out at some point over the weekend or something like that. That works out for both James and I, and of course across time zones and whatever it is.
Yeah, we'll do one. We'll do one of these. Probably not this weekend because I work.
No, I mean, it's probably gonna be. I would table it till at least March. I don't know when in March. I'm sorry, but sometime in March we'll probably get something like that set up.
Yeah, in March we should do that.
Yeah, March or April, and then so there's that. And then secondly, Skapop 2. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I love this question that you threw in new. So if you said, okay, can someone help me? Because I don't understand this. Consumer spending is up, inflation is up, credit card default rates are up.
And somehow we had 517,500 new jobs.
Yeah.
All right, so I can help you with. I think I can help you with that pretty easily.
Yeah.
Well, not very easily. Maybe I'm just doing this very, very glibly.
Well, these are all harebrained ideas. I mean, the stuff that I threw in there real quick was, it's the month of January. A lot of college graduates in December.
Yeah, so that's a big one. So you've got so the big ones for interest is, and I think you're absolutely right on that, is that you've got people coming off of severance, you have people coming off of people coming out of college. You also might just have people who have been out of the market for a while, or out of the job market for a while, coming back in.
Yeah.
The real issue that you're looking at is, and you're right, is that consumer spending is up, inflation's up. There is some causation there. This isn't a correlation causation argument. Spending being up causes the inflation to be up, and then credit card default rates are up. That is also connected. These are also all very problematic things to look at. The Fed thought it was going to be easy to start inflation 2 years ago, even last year. So 2020, 2021. They were saying things like, "Oh, we can get it. It's easy to get inflation going. We can get inflation going. That'll be easy."
It took a minute.
It wasn't, because it took them several months to get inflation going.
Yeah.
And now they can't stop it, and they thought they'd have an easy way to stop it too. And the problem is that the tools they have don't seem to work as well as they thought.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it doesn't really surprise you when all of a sudden, if you look at M1, M2 money supply in the last 3 years, 40% of it was created. So now you have to work on uncreating that to tame inflation. Raising interest rates can really only do so much. QT can really only do so much to counteract that. But yeah, to answer your question, these jobs added, maybe a lot of it is because inflation is high. And it's like, all right. And also maybe because their, credit card debt is super high as well. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to default on 2 credit cards. So I might have to start driving for Uber here or do some DoorDash trips or whatever it is to kind of supplement my spending habits.
And that assumes you drive and have the means to do so. But yeah, no, that's absolutely right.
So that's all a job added, technically, right?
I mean, if you really want to know where the credit card defaults going up are, it's very simple. It's the inflation is driving one end, so you're getting bitten on one side, and that you are spending more to get the same amount that you historically have, and the other end you're getting hit by higher APRs, because I will assume that the average person has a credit card that has a floating APR rate, just because that is the case for a lot of people.
Well, to be able to get a credit card, a lot of people just kind of have to accept that floating APR.
Exactly right, and with interest rates going up,
boom, that floating rate
APR is going up, right? So now you're getting bitten on both ends. You're getting bitten by inflation and by increased credit card fees. That's what we missed last week, the State of the Union. That's what was last week.
State of the Union was the Chiefs won the Super Bowl.
I'll say this: there was one part of the State of the Union that I think Aaron and I can both agree on, that it was I don't know who wrote this because it wasn't Biden, but someone wrote this for him, and it was a very simple statement, and it was a brilliant statement, and it was: capitalism without competition isn't capitalism, it's extortion.
Yes,
that's right. 100%. That's correct.
That's absolutely correct.
I don't know if necessarily his solution is going to be better than the problem.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. And,
but it's nice to hear someone call it out.
Yeah, and we
call
don't know
a dingo.
Exactly. We don't know what his approach for that statement is, but the statement just at face value is absolutely true, right? Take a look at Standard Oil. But regardless, that's kind of just the short answer to your question. But I think it's a good segue into what we saw last week, right? So yes, 517,000 jobs added. More economic data came out as we rounded out the week. One being CPI. CPI was huge. It came out, what, was it yesterday? Or I think, Valentine's Day. That's right.
It came out Tuesday morning.
That's right, Valentine's Day. Yeah, which is yesterday.
It was the government's gift to me for Valentine's Day.
If the government was your Valentine, I'm so sorry.
It wasn't.
Okay,
thankfully,
cool.
Aaron was my Valentine.
Oh, good. Awesome. Right. Because, you can only listen to My Chemical Romance and repeat one over, for so long, on Valentine's Day.
It was touch and go for a while, but she said yes, so we worked it out.
Well, cool. CPI. This week is what? I think it's just bad news for people who like good news preceded by bad news. It's we saw CPI way,
Was it 6.5, 6.4?
Yeah. So what was the expected?
It wasn't.
6.4 was expected, right?
They expected 6.2. It was 6.4. They expected 6.2.
6.2. Yeah.
And it's still up from the 2.1% that they're gunning for, right? So, I mean, let's call it 3 times what historical average has been.
Well, yeah. So that came out obviously super hot. Like if we just kind of want to look at the basket of goods real quick, just kind of take a look at what's under the hood.
I was going to say, unfortunately, Aaron, you look like you might be. You look like you might be losing mass. Unfortunately, I think your egg habits really is unwinding.
No, yeah. Remember when, you ever watch Rocky and there's that scene where he cracks 5 eggs into the glass and drinks it?
Oh, man.
That iconic scene of his, right before he's about to go training after, what's his name? What's the guy's name? Apollo Creed. Apollo Creed calls him and says, "Hey, I like you. You're the style that I'm looking for."
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that scene where he cracks 5 eggs. I mean, think about that. That nowadays is like $4.
Woo!
Like, dang. Yeah, nowadays Rocky wouldn't be able to afford to fight Apollo Creed.
Not being unemployed, not doing what he was doing. Yeah. No, it's like making like true sour cocktails. There was like we got a 12-pack of eggs in for the first time in like 3 weeks at the bar last night or this week. And it's like, I'm like, man, what did we spend on that? And we're like this much. And it's like, oh gosh. Yeah. That's going to create quite a bit of markup on each cocktail that has an egg going into it.
Yeah. Well, I think this wasn't a surprise because I think, the major appliances, inflation for that is starting to not matter as much, right? So even if that decreases in value.
I can only buy so many stoves, fridges, washing machines, TVs.
Exactly.
Because TV's not really a major appliance.
Yeah. I mean, we literally talk about that every month because it's like, why is that so, why is there so much weight in the basket of goods? It just doesn't make any sense. But
I was gonna say, the only two things on the basket of goods that I looked at and I went, hey, that's good news. And I think it was beef and pork prices were down. So it's like, hey, all right.
Yeah, cool. Bacon. Yeah. But, eating out is still more expensive, right? So going out to restaurants, still 8.2% more expensive. Food and energy. Which I don't know, like I don't know why people even talk about inflation x food and energy. But
I hate that too. It's you know what? We're gonna do one of these and we're just gonna move past it really fast. And it's just gonna be in the same way that Charlie Munger would call EBITDA bullshit earnings.
Yes.
Without the basket without energy and food is a bullshit basket.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think that's all it needs to be said. And
and also I should probably mention this too.
We're moving on.
I don't know why I just thought of this, and it's probably a little bit late, but nothing we say is financial advice. The thoughts,
we don't, and it doesn't reflect the reviews of our employers or
our clients,
anything of that nature.
Yeah,
so
exactly. This is, and if it does, it's completely coincidental. Like I'm not speaking on behalf of my employer. I'm speaking on behalf of myself.
Absolutely not. These are not official communications from anyone paying us.
Right.
Or not paying us. These are official communications from us.
Yes, from Aaron Wong and James Goldweiler, nobody else.
And by the end of the episode, it may be the unofficial communications from them and the official communications from Drunk Them.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's a really good disclaimer as well. And also, none of this is financial advice. But I mean, food and energy, food up 10.1%, food at home up 11.3%, energy up 8.7%. So it's still up. And, we kind of need those things. Those aren't necessarily things we have a choice in terms of, whether or not I want to pay for it. It's not discretionary.
I can move around what I eat at home. I can't move around the fact that I need to eat at home.
Exactly.
It's it's just not sustainable.
Because
we're seeing eggs at 70.1%. Like it's closer to triple digits than single. Let's put it that way. It's concerning.
It's a very nervous laugh for me. Yeah.
We talked about why, and it's that there is an avian flu hitting chickens, hitting the actual poultry numbers, and then we also have the issue that chickens aren't as randy as historically I guess they have been because they've introduced new breeders or new breeding roosters, and it's just not working out. So we're having fewer chickens and we're culling the ones we've got. So that's part of it.
Yeah.
But what if it's like cereal and bakery goods? I'm like, well, if eggs are more expensive, bakery goods are coming too, right? Complementary goods. They're not exactly supplementary.
Well, I think, if you think about like bakery goods, eggs go into everything, man. Like, I mean, when people make pasta, like an egg is being cracked somewhere, right? In the process of making just the actual pasta, right?
Oh man, like I think back on like just grilling out with friends, like you're making your own hamburger patties. Well, get an egg in there as a binder.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, eggs are brilliant. It's a brilliant food, right? And I'm not just saying that as someone that loves eating eggs, even though I've really had to like substitute for something a lot cheaper like Doritos. How is that a substitute? Don't ask me. I don't know. Whatever fills me up when I'm hungry. That doesn't cost as much as eggs. it's just what I gotta live with.
Supplemental good. It's time for the supplemental goods to shine. What do we got? And for eggs, it's hard. Like for ground beef, it's like, okay, well, let's try like ground pork or
turkey or chicken,
or like ground turkey even. Yeah, like we could try a different meat, but no, but
not
egg,
the best,
it's like,
but yeah, it's like,
I guess really we're like, wouldn't it be nice if there was like an easy substitute for chicken eggs?
Right, exactly.
Because there isn't.
Yeah, there really isn't.
I guess thinking like, well, you could go get an ostrich egg, but man, you're gonna get you scramble one ostrich egg, and you better like refrigerate like half of it, at least half of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, this kind of goes back into the question, the with the Biden line. I don't know how this ties in together, but you know where I'm going with this, right?
Let's make it work.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, competition or capitalism without competition. Eggs have no competition. I can't believe how little competition there are with chicken eggs.
Well, yeah, but
there are
there's not a thriving duck industry in the U.S. Well,
right, if you go to
thriving,
go to brunch, if you don't like eggs, like odds are you're okay with egg whites, which is still an egg. It's still
the egg was still involved at some point.
Exactly, but you're not eating the whole egg.
It's exactly right. It's essentially a bottleneck good.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. But we bring this up because CPI, man. If you want to look at the jobs report last week and the CPI report this week, so far we're like, okay, the Fed 25 basis points. Probably a short-sighted move.
Well, what that brings, which kind of brings us to another really interesting thing that's a shakeup in the Fed, a shakeup in National Economic Council, is that Lael Brainard is leaving the Fed. So she'll be announcing her last day will be the 20th of February, I think is what I read. But
I think we kind of saw it from a mile away, though. I think she got the job because she's already in the good graces of Joe Biden.
Well, I don't doubt that. And what I liked about her was that she was in there and she was in there and she would shake up necessarily. My understanding is kind of the thought process. She thinks differently. She believes different economic and market outcomes via different market solutions, right? So it's at least a dissenting voice in a room. So it prevents that groupthink. At the same time, I went back and kind of looked at a lot of her like decision making and a lot of like what she said. I guess it never occurred to me just how dovish she really was.
Right. Well, I mean, because like if you think about it, how
it's a good thing she's out of the room.
Well, I mean, I don't want to comment on that one way or another, but I have a tough time disagreeing with because I think if the Fed just has a consistent message, they keep saying on whatever business news channel that you see, don't fight the Fed, don't fight the Fed, and it's funny because the Fed is fighting the Fed.
The Fed fights the Fed.
Yeah, because Chris Waller.
To be fair, there's not one Fed. There's 12 Feds, and then they get together and go, "We're the Fed."
Yeah, exactly, and it's
not just a.
And
Fed.
I literally feel like their job, like all they do is contradict them.
I hope that
themselves.
sounded as belittling and mocking as possible.
Yeah,
I said that, by the way. That was deliberate.
Yeah, no, I knew.
They do contradict themselves. Yeah. But to be fair, you would expect a certain amount of contradiction between certain Feds. Because you'd expect necessarily kind of like like the St. Louis Fed and the Kansas City Fed and the California Fed.
Mayor Daley,
I forget which numbers those are, but they might have more in common than say the Atlanta Fed and the New York Fed.
Right.
It's all because California and the Midwest, they have a lot of agriculture and they also have a lot of other businesses that aren't that. And so whereas, New York is very, very, there's a certain amount of agriculture and other products, but it's a lot of retail, a lot of financial.
Yeah, and services.
And then down in
stuff,
Atlanta and like the Southeast, it's a lot of tourism and other things. So it's are these banks necessarily all that unified in their interests?
Yeah, but I think, it's a tough situation that we're in because, along with CPI, we saw this morning as well, retail numbers are insanely strong, right? So
it was 3%?
Yeah, so exactly. Retail sales jumped up 3% in the month of January, destroying expectations despite the inflation increase.
Can I ask you, like, when you in your time as a bartender, what was January? What would be for you in sales?
I don't remember, but I don't remember January being an extraordinary month, right? I don't remember it being an extraordinary month. Yeah, because usually the beginning of the year is always, end of the year is always busy, and then the beginning of the year is always slow.
And you get that break, and you're kind of like, okay.
Yeah, and then things usually start picking back up March 17th.
Around March, when we
around St. Patty's Day, the best holiday in the world. Yeah, so
I don't know about the best, but it's definitely the most fun.
Okay,
the day after is one of the worst days.
Yeah, kind of like the Monday after the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Oh, St. Patrick's Day is a Friday this year. Oh, I just remembered that.
I'm gonna die.
All right, people, get ready to get your hurt on.
I'm gonna die.
I want pictures. We want pictures.
Yes, we do.
Of people out there living their most drunkonomical lives.
Yeah, this I gotta see.
But back on topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did blow it away because it was Dow expected 1.9%. It was I mean a not insubstantial blowout.
Yeah, so you beat it by 30%, right? That's a crazy. Or no, you beat it by 50%, right? Because 2% to 3%. Yeah. That's a
you were 50% ahead. You were more than 50% ahead of what they expected.
Yeah. So talk about absolutely annihilating expectations. So we have three key pieces of economic data, right? And to Scott Pop's point, right, where you're talking about how is this happening? This is unexplainable too, right? And maybe this is it. Maybe the jobs added is the reason why retail is up, or retail sales are up. And if you look at credit card debt is pushing $1 trillion in aggregate credit card debt.
Yeah. And this is a country. This is a country that's never historically been all that savvy.
Yeah. And if you speaking of being savvy, like savings rates, aggregate level also tanking. So you have tanking savings rates.
So we're seeing
rising credit card debts,
huge credit card debt, and huge dissaving.
Yes,
the actual economic word.
Yes, huge. Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
dissaving.
Yeah, it's dissaving. So people just spending money literally faster than they're making it.
Exactly.
This is the environment that we're in. Yes, this is extremely concerning.
Well, let's put it this way. It has a logical end.
It doesn't.
You can't. I haven't seen one of these in a long time. But if you ever go to like a fair or like a circus, like one of those things where they have like you can get on those inflatable it's like an inflatable game, but like you put a vest on and you're strapped to a bungee behind you and you run away from that bungee cord as fast as you can. You can run for a little bit and at full speed for some of it.
Yeah.
But eventually you're going to get to a point and it's going to yank you. It's going to snap you back.
And to your analogy, right? The faster you run, the further away you can get from the thing, right? So, America is a very fast moving country. So we've gotten very far away from the center point. But we all know the further away you get, the harder you snap back.
What is it? The higher the rise, the bigger the fall? It's that the more you resist, the greater the damage. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's that.
Well, I think the American consumer, and I've always praised the American consumer.
It's second to none.
Right. I've always praised the American consumer for being resilient and the American economy for being resilient. But this might be how sometimes you can be so good at something to a fault, so good at a good quality to a fault.
Well, this is kind of the interesting thing because I look at the U.S. and the U.S. has never imported a recession. I've actually I've been looking at it. It's a really weird thing to say. We've exported several.
Yeah.
We've never imported one. And I think that actually has to do specifically with the fact that the United States has is essentially bordered by the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans.
Right.
And truly to the south through the Caribbean and then also the Atlantic and the Pacific get to South America. But if you look at it, whenever there's been recession in Asia, the U.S. turns to Europe and just sells to Europe.
Right.
Whenever there's been recession in Europe, it turns to Asia and sells
which
to
is
Asia.
Which is why I still, I'm on, like last week I talked about how I think, okay, if China stays open and everything goes back to business as usual in China, which I don't really see that as a likeliness. Especially on a long-term level,
it'll be a new usual,
especially compared to what we saw in the last 5 years. Going back to 2018,
it will not be meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah,
it'll be meet the new boss.
It'll be meet a completely different boss. Yeah, but if that happens, okay, fine, soft landing. This is not as concerning as it looks just at face value. But, when you look at inflation, like for the longest time, people always talked about like the supply chain was the reason why inflation was a thing. And if you look at the supply chains now, a lot of that's fixed. The supply chains
it causes some. It's causing some, right? So we know that warehouses, it costs more to store things now. So that's causing A little bit, but it's not causing. That's not what's driving.
Right, but like it's not anymore, right? Where at one point, I'm sure, like I'm sure, like maybe 30% of inflation was caused by supply chains. But like, just look at the supply chains across the world. The reason why we haven't talked about supply chain problems, supply chain woes, is because it's gotten a lot better.
It's because we're halfway there. They're not a problem anymore.
Yeah,
they are, but they're not in the way they were.
Yeah, well, if you look at the supply chain pressure index,
if you look at, and I think it's great because our righteous blokes down under threw that to us because they were at least one of them works in shipping, or at least sees it come across his desk at work, and was pointing out to us. And this is again in the Discord. I think this was free information to all. Is that he's seen what it used to cost to ship a container. The shipping container costs are back. They're back now exactly where they were pre-COVID, or so close as to be essentially the same, right? It's to be negligible in the difference. And so that tells me, that shipping isn't the issue.
Yeah, I mean, we still have a shortage of Teamsters, but we had that for 6 years now. So,
we've had that for a while.
Yeah, that's not I'm not saying it's a good thing, right? Like we need to resolve that as fast as possible. But, it's back to, like last year when everybody was complaining about supply chain pressures, it's like, well, I mean, that part is about exactly the same as it was before everybody was complaining about supply chain issues. So, if you look at the supply chain now, I'm just trying to say it's gotten a lot better. So you look at economic data, you look at supply chain, you look at retail, CPI, jobs reports. Like, I get why the Fed did the 25 basis point rate hikes. I still think it's really short-sighted. So, hindsight 2020, right? 25 basis points has already happened. Now there needs to be some language of, okay, we're not pivoting regardless of what interest expense, the effective interest expense on debt is,
I agree with you. Like I would have seen one or two more 50 basis point hikes personally.
If you were Jerome Powell?
Yeah. I'd like to think I would have. I don't know what the pressures he's looking at are. No, I would have wanted more because again, like if legitimate, and it's silly, but if the legitimate medicine for high inflation is higher interest rates, inflation, it's still a problem. Like you still don't have a net positive interest rate.
Yeah, real interest rate.
Until you have that, for me, you have an inflation problem. Because if people can't sit on their money and have it grow, people are going to spend it. They have to.
It makes sense.
Foolish it would be irresponsible to otherwise. And thus inflation, right? It's you have to do something. You have to give people the ability to not spend their money and not lose money. It's very easy. But now, absolutely. He's gone to 25. Inflation didn't spike. So there's no reason to jump back to 50. And this is me thinking probably how they're thinking. I think we're going to have to sit on 25 basis point hikes for a while. And I think we were saying this before we started recording, or at least you were, we're going to have to get to a point where the Fed's happy and sit there for a long time. And that might be the rest of the year, right? Get to 5.5% or something and sit there for the year. Get to 6% and sit there for a year and say, like, look, we're not pivoting down until I've seen the result. I don't
understand why we need to play this seesaw game of whatever it is with the interest rates, because I mean, and like, why would you? That's not. I don't think that's fair to the entire economy, to the bond markets. Have you heard
the awful? The only thing I can think of right now is like this awful George Lucas joke about Star Wars. But when they first re-released the original Star Wars trilogy, because the way I heard this joke when I was much younger was that someone essentially said is George Lucas ate a sandwich 6 months ago and he's been eating salt and pepper packs and mayonnaise, trying to fix the flavor ever since. And it's like, move on to the next sandwich, George. It's kind of one of those things where, like, I'm sitting here with the Fed. It's like, hey, stop looking back at what you've historically done. Look at what's in front of you. Make the right choice. Make the right choice.
Exactly.
For your dual job, your dual role. Maximizing employment, minimizing inflation.
Yeah,
and I'll have you know, none of that has anything to do with the national debt. None of that has anything to do with with stock markets. It has nothing to do with investments. It has two jobs: maximize employment, minimize inflation. And if you can do that, well done.
If you look at employment too, like to your point, like employment has been over maximized. We saw the jobs report. Like, so you look at, this rate decision of 25 basis points, which a lot of people saw coming. Everybody saw 25 basis points coming. I mean, you asked anybody.
I wish they'd have just sucker punched with a 50.
I agree.
Just to like bloody the nose of everyone who was like,
agree.
We thought 25, and then go 25.
I agree, because like now everybody's calling the Fed an idiot. At least if not, they maybe they should be. But yeah, you and I are for sure. But but I get it. Like I get where they're coming from in the sense that like they're looking at what this will do with interest expense. Like you said, it's double tap. Like people with a lot of credit card debt, they're getting hit twice because a lot of these credit card loans are floating rates.
I mean, the expression like burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah,
is this?
But like to the Fed's criticism, we have all this economic data is like, okay, well maybe 50 basis points probably made more sense, but it's also on the back end, right? Where like you mentioned, if you have a floating rate credit card outstanding debt, like that's not a good sign for you if you're also getting hit with inflation and now higher interest rate on your credit card loans that are currently outstanding. Additionally, from the federal government, right? Federal government debt is at all-time highs, and debt interest
it's always at all-time highs.
It's always at all-time. Yeah, every time I say it's at all-time highs, it's literally at a new all-time high.
It's still true.
Yeah,
it's more true if you're listening to the newer stuff than the older stuff. But if you're listening in order, it's still true.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing too is like government debt interest. We're looking right down the barrel of a loaded gun of about $1 trillion of just interest on federal government debt, and a lot of that has to do with interest rate hikes that took place over the last year. All the government debt
because now if the Fed, right? So the Fed, or I'm sorry, not the Fed. The Fed doesn't issue bonds. If the Treasury wants to issue new bonds to service the debt of the country, it has to do that
at a higher.
It can't do that. It can't do that until the debt ceiling's raised or abolished. I'm just saying it's an option. Saying it's an option. It's an option.
Totally.
To our listeners who are clearly members of Congress and the Senate, it's an option. And I'd really appreciate it if you would legitimately treat it as such instead of having this stupid fight. Like
it's a game of politics.
Let's have a drip limit fight when we've hit the tab total. Oh no, we'll just make the tab bigger. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Just get rid of the tab.
Yeah.
Just get rid of a tab. Not the tab.
Don't go to the bathroom and snort some cocaine to sober yourself up. Just stop drinking.
Think, I'm rallied.
Yeah, don't do that.
Or just don't go in going, I'm only going to have 5 drinks knowing you're going to have 20. Look, it's just you don't drive. Plan to take the Uber and be fine. Make good choices.
Listen, I 100% agree with you. And like, this, I'm glad we're segueing into this topic. So last week we had Brian Moynihan, who is the CEO of a pretty small bank. You might have heard of them. It's called Bank of America.
Which America? North, South,
the United States
of
the United
Central.
States of.
Okay. That Bank of America.
That Bank of America. Yeah. So that guy, that freaking CEO, last week said, we're prepared for a U.S. government default. Like, we're positioned in a way, if the government defaulted, we're going to be okay.
All right, I'll be honest with you. He has positioned himself the best he can. The rest of it's a lie. No one's prepared for that. No one's prepared.
Right.
When the risk-free rate has risk, you got a problem.
No, that's a huge. Like, how do you discount every?
You mean that pure water that kills 10% of people that drink it? Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, no, exactly. So how do you discount the rest of your portfolio if that risk-free rate isn't risk-free anymore? Like, what happens, right?
Oh yeah.
So is it
one is no longer one?
Like, do you now all of a sudden have to apply margin to that risk-free rate, right? Like, or whatever it is. I don't know.
There is.
Right?
Here's the problem. The ground is shifting beneath your feet at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a licensed scuba diver. This is a fun fact about me. I'm out of practice, and I wouldn't be able to do any of the things I'd have to do. Right. But I have the card.
Right. So that's all that matters. Yeah.
And there's this one really fun thing that happens to you when you're doing your final test underwater, like your final practical. And it's that your instructor will come and do things to kind of mess with you. And I don't know if this is necessarily exactly. I'm told the way it was historically done is that you'd be out like diving somewhere, and your instructor would come and be legitimately mean to you, really. Like when I say mean, like pulling your mask off your face.
Wow.
You have to be prepared for when your mask comes off your face. You lose the ability to see. And so you have to learn to pull your mask back onto your face from wherever it is, and then put air back into it using your nose, so that you can see again. Because if this happens very deep underwater, you can't just be blind until you get to the surface. It won't work. Wow. But one of the things they teach you is if you're ever not certain about where you are in the water, blow out some bubbles and follow the bubbles because they're going up. And the up is where you want to be. You want to be at the surface. This is what the banks are talking about sitting here like, oh yeah, we're absolutely prepared for this. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're not. You're talking about on land, I'm prepared for what'll happen. We've just thrown you in the water because you don't have land to stand on.
Right.
The risk-free rate isn't. You're standing on the shore going, I am absolutely prepared for that. Well, you're now 30 feet down in the water going, I was not ready.
Yeah.
Also, you don't have the luxury of scuba equipment at this point because it happened instantly because
now you don't have the buying power for it.
Never supposed to. Well, your next problem is if your Bank of America is you're using U.S. dollars, which
so we can get into the dollar index story too, which I really think I don't see it. I'm not bullish on the dollar.
If the bottom falls out on U.S. debt, I don't see the dollar holding value.
I just don't.
And earlier when I said
I think even
the U.S. has exported a few recessions, that would be the next.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we can touch on this a little bit more later. But I'm just not. Even if we don't default, I'm not bullish on the U.S. dollar currently. But I thought when Brian Moynihan said that, with the whole, we're prepared to take on a U.S. government default. I was like, one, I don't think you are. And two, okay, let's just say you were, and let's just say you legitimately were prepared for that. I don't believe that you actually believe that the government is going to default. So three, I think this is clickbait, right? And then of course, the CBO came out today and said, unless something happens, which, we're still on the fence on now. But unless something happens, unless they can do what you said, lift the debt ceiling or suspend it, right? Not a bad idea.
Or you can abolish it. You don't just have to suspend. You could just
or you can abolish it. I don't know about that one yet, personally, and I understand totally.
But it's because it's only 108 years old.
I totally understand where you're coming from. No other country has a debt ceiling, whatever. Yeah, I totally get that. I just don't know if there's another. I mean, other countries, I don't want to compare the U.S. to because they also have a debt to GDP of more than one. A lot of them do. And I don't like that. So, and we currently are also in that camp. So, I think,
and we are, but
I don't think
Japan
the debt
has made it work. We've made it work. We're making it work.
I don't know. I think Japan is making it work, but they're hanging on by a thread.
Oh yeah, no. They have their own problems. And guys, I know we said we were going to do that Abenomics episode. I promised this September for his birthday. We will. It did feel last year like it would have been a little too soon, and the research quality wouldn't have been there. Mm-hmm. I promise it's coming.
Yeah, exactly. But I just think, gosh, so the CBO they say this, and Brian Moynihan all of a sudden looks like, looks as smart as the CEO of one of the top 9 banks in the US. Oh wait, which he is. But it's like,
well, he's at least one of them. I don't necessarily know about the smart part.
Exactly. Well, as smart as one of them. So, that kind of has to be. That kind of has to be true. But because he is one of them, so he obviously has to be as smart as one of them.
I know, but I like it my way better.
But touche, fair enough. Little column A, little column B. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I thought that was clickbait. I saw that and I was like, this is just I don't know if this is the most mature thing to do. I felt like this was just him trying to elbow his way to get more headline attention for Bank of America. Because that boosts the stakes. I thought it was, but the CBO report, man, how do you not?
Well, so here's the real thing. I've only ever seen actually one company, and this is in the last few years. I've only seen one company actually make decisions based on the idea that the government will not interfere and that the bad case will come into fruition. And that was Berkshire Hathaway in 2020. They liquidated out of positions going hotels, planes, whatever these things are. Yeah. We're not staying in these because, and it's very simple. We have to assume the government will not interfere in the free market.
That's capitalism. Yeah.
I wish more companies behaved that way. I understand why they don't. And it's because the government will interfere in a free market system whenever it sees too much downside, right? Yeah. We talked about how the maximum you can lose on a given day in the stock market is 20%. The stock market can lose 20%. The circuit breaker will stop trading at 20%. Yeah, that's all you can lose. It's all not you. It's all it can lose. You're all in one thing, and
which doesn't mean doesn't mean there aren't stop gaps, right? So it doesn't mean if it queues of circuit breakers today is down 20%, doesn't mean the next day it opens down 20 more percent, right? It doesn't mean that can't happen, but yeah, absolutely. I just think, we're staring at, about $1 trillion worth of interest expense this year. Do we suspend the debt ceiling? I don't know. I just don't. I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea in terms of getting our spending under control, which I think that should be the number one priority.
Well, I don't disagree with you on spending. I'd also like to see tax enforcement.
Yeah, but that costs money, which is ironic.
But as long as it returns more money than it costs, It's value. It's value for money, right?
Now that's the golden question.
And I think, at this point, the increased funding of the IRS is a good thing.
Yeah, but potentially, but I still
the real problem is that the federal government hiring portal is an absolute fucking nightmare.
Which obviously makes a lot of sense that it is. No,
of course,
I feel like the government has become an enemy to all. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, you just don't trust government officials or government anything.
What song? Hang on. Pink Floyd, Mother. Should I trust the government?
No. You have no idea how much. You have no idea how much I love that song. I love that song so much.
Oh,
it's such a big turning point. First of all, The Wall is the best album of all time. I don't care what anybody says.
Absolutely.
And sorry to go on this long tangent, but it's going to be a minute. Like, The Wall is the best album of all time. Mother on that album is one of the big turning points of the album. Just saying, I love that song so much.
Well, I told you I went to the Pink Floyd thing 2-3 weeks ago, right? I told you that, right? The Pink Floyd.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, because you kept showing me all those pictures.
Yeah. The cover show at Bourbon, and I had to pee/get beer. Remember, the Drunkonomical thing is to do both, not just do one or the other. One trip, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm walking down the ramp out of the Bourbon area away from it, and Mother's playing. And the point is,
you gotta go back in.
Should I trust?
I'm sorry, Mother.
But it's just that one line of "Should I trust the government?" I really had to pee though. Should I trust the government? And did
everybody say no? Because when I saw Roger Waters,
the entire crowd just no,
dude. When I saw Roger Waters, it was so Roger Waters, who was one of the founders of Pink Floyd. For those of you that don't know, I saw him live not too long ago. When he did Mother, he said, "Mother, should I trust the government?" And then on the Jumbotron that he had, it said "fuck no," and everybody was
just said no. It just said big no.
Oh yeah, for Roger Waters it said "fuck no," and then everybody was cheering about that. And it was
No, the entire I remember it was the entire crowd said no before no came up.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, so that's what happened. The crowd said no, and then they said "fuck no," and then everybody started cheering.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so great. But yeah. Anyways, it's one of those things where I just I think they need to get that under control. I hate that the government is in charge of government spending. That really sucks. As much as they say that the voters are, that's just not true at all.
Well, it's a Republican system where the legislature controls the purse, and we theory control the legislature. I said theory.
Okay,
look,
that's true. That part's true.
I don't know who it was. Have I told you my extremist view on what the legislature needs to do in the United States? Is the fact that
no, but now I'm here for it now.
The House of Representatives was frozen at 435 seats in the 1940s when the population of the United States was 140 million. The United States is now 340 million. There are the smallest
almost triple in size.
Smallest House district is the state of Wyoming. I think it's 150,000 people.
Yeah.
There are other House districts with 300, 400, 500, 600,000 people in them. And here's why. Because they have to keep the number of districts. A district has to be kept within a state order. And so that's why you have these huge California districts having more people, but less essentially electoral power than Wyoming.
Per capita,
per capita. And so my response is, no, I think that I think we should look at what the smallest state by population is in the United States. We should say, it's Wyoming. It's 110,000 people. Okay. No district can be bigger than 110,000 people. No House district. Senate, 2 per state. But I think the House needs to be bigger. I've said the House needs to be bigger. And the only reason is if you'd gone to the founding fathers and said, the House of Representatives, each representative has 100,000 people, they'd go, what are you talking about? Are you high? That's way too big for a representative to represent their actual needs.
Right. And I think you're onto something there. I don't think it's too radical. I mean, I would hate for...
Now, at the same time, that means that we have a bigger legislature, a bigger government, and they're getting paid. And that upsets me.
I was going to say, that's exactly what I was going to say.
But
there's more government jobs. They're all getting paid $200,000 a year. So that's a lot of taxpaying dollars.
It's not great for what's happening to the taxpayer on that end.
Well, it's a lot of exactly. But the taxpayers are servicing the debt too.
But I'd like to think that my representative then becomes a lot more beholden to me as the average citizen, the average voter. They become a lot more beholden when they're a lot more exposed to me.
I like the idea of that too.
There's only 100,000 of us. You can only piss. If you piss off 50,000 of one of us, you're out. Yeah. You can piss off 49,999, but one more. And
I'm also reluctant to the fact that for every dollar I make, they get 0.0001 cents. So but that's more or less the point. I mean, either way, guess who's servicing the national debt, right? Guess who's paying for this interest that it's almost $1 trillion now? You and I are the taxpayers.
Absolutely.
So
the taxpayer always has been.
Yeah. So I understand the language of a pivot. I think it's very much premature. But
absolutely.
Yeah, but I think if you're really worried about like the buying power of the dollar going down, I think the big story for this year is still China. Last year, I think very much was the year of the Fed. This year is still the year of the Fed, but it's very much what is China doing? We could talk about the spy balloons. I don't really want to go into that, right? It's whatever. Yeah,
One was shot down over past Myrtle Beach, and then 3 other things got shot down. Frankly,
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
China is that hard to fly a satellite over the country. It's not. Now I know what you wanted to. You wanted to fly and get electronic intelligence where we think we're safe. But
yeah, well, I honestly think this was kind of just like if you're flying a balloon, whatever. I don't want to get into it. I'll just stop there. But what I'm trying to say,
it's dumb and it's a distraction.
But like what I'm trying to say is, I think the big story is China, because I think if we do navigate to a soft landing, a lot of it would be thanks to China, and I hate that we're so depending on China. But it's true, right? If China stays open, I think I said it earlier, if China stays open, business as usual, meet the new boss. It's a new boss.
No, it's just the new boss, yeah.
Yeah, it's a new boss. Well, there's the soft landing. What was going on with the UK? I know we talked about that.
Well, no. Okay, so Rishi Sunak has
is he
not
good?
been in the news, which I actually really enjoy that. Having it's like
know what? If Joe Biden avoids the news, if I don't hear a word about Joe Biden, I'm like, good job.
Excellent. Yeah.
Great job.
Exactly right. And it's one of those simple things where it's like, look, if I don't have to hear about my elected officials, that's great.
Yeah.
So Rishi Sunak, really haven't heard anything about him. Not necessarily haven't heard him. I haven't heard anything recently in the news. So well done. You've avoided the Boris trap. Apparently, which I want to say is both not that hard and is also like Boris. It's not. Is it that hard?
Is it?
But no. Yeah. So the UK is celebrating its 10.1% inflation. So down for the 3rd time in 3 months. Which that's. If you thought things were bad here, they're worse there. And
I'm still, I'll say this. I'm still, so even with that, right? And I forget what UK or not UK. I forget what Euro inflation is right now. It's gotten better too, and I think the target. I forget what's her name, Lagarde was saying for the target rate, but it was around 3.5. I think 3.5 to 3 3/4. I forget. I could be way off on this. But I think it's 3.5 to 3.75 is the target year-end rate or the target mid-year rate for the ECB fund.
They're equivalent to the Fed fund rate. So
whatever you want to call it.
The ECB lending rate.
Whatever you want to call it. It's not their interbank rate, but they're just their regular lending rate. So that I think was their target. I still think even with all this, right? Even with this still very massive UK inflation or pound inflation and euro inflation, I'm still bearish on the dollar. I'm still very bearish on the dollar.
I'll take a more...
That sounds unpatriotic, but...
I'm certainly a secular bull in the dollar. I'll take a more bullish... This is weird, I have to say. I'll take a more bullish... Not necessarily weird to have to say that I'm bullish on the dollar. I'm going to be a little more bullish on the dollar than you are bearish, I think, for another reason than Europe is going to keep its rates a little higher, a little bit longer. And I actually think the ECB has enough insulation that they can for a while. The other big thing is, this is kind of critical, is that it's been a very warm winter so far. I say this as it's snowing here in Lincoln.
Yeah.
That it's been a very warm winter, especially in Europe, and so that's really kind of it's if anything was going to the Russian winter failed to materialize, and that's hobbled Putin, and really helped Europe out. To be fair, a lack of snow also does continue to suggest a lack of river water or of liquid in rivers, and so that's not necessarily great for like the European economy as a whole, actually supply chain wide. But
I only say this because I really think the dollar index goes below 90. I mean, I could be way wrong on this, so I'm not trying to.
I think it should. I think it
100% should.
I think it would be. I think it would be better. I think it would be better in the long run if it did. I don't necessarily know if it will.
Yeah.
It will at some point. I don't necessarily know it will in the next 3 months between Q1 and Q2.
Okay, well, I think it will. I think it will sometime mid-year. It'll scoot below 90. Right. I think July maybe goes below 90.
All right. So below 90 by July, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the great thing is,
I mean, we can make a bet on it if you want, but
you don't have to. But if you need a place to put your dollars that isn't the dollar index, I would strongly suggest you check out druckonomics.myspreadshop.com. You can.
Oh, absolutely. Well, before the dollar weekends, let's
exactly
let's
right.
get
you
on
can put
that.
your dollar into hoodies, t-shirts, golf polos, posters for the wall, stickers for the laptop. You can put it into just some sweet swag. I have been told. I've been told that we should get beach towels, and I'll be honest. Yes,
that'd be pretty cool.
Absolutely right. We should.
Yes.
And I don't know how. I'm going to try and find a place.
Yeah.
I will do my best.
Where
to get
can
that
you
done.
find this stuff again? I forget.
But at
What's that website called?
They don't make towels
That's
yet,
what it
but I'm
is.
going to ask if they can make towels for this. And but then you can look just as good as I do right now. I'm here sporting my, and I'll be honest, my OG Drunkonomics hoodie.
That's real OG hoodie. Yeah.
I've worn this to two Fed banks and
you literally
and the Treasury Department.
Yeah.
And that's my thing is I guess before I retire this hoodie, it'll have to go to all the Fed banks now. I have to hit the rest of them.
Wow, that's quite the milestone. That's actually awesome. You know what? That's our goal. Maybe even the ECB and BOE. I mean, who knows?
We get overseas. I'll visit any central bank that needs visiting. This will be the official hoodie of unwelcome in this central bank. If I've learned anything,
that is a stretch, man. Be careful what you say, because when you say needs visiting, technically by you, they all do. So
that's right.
Just saying. They all need visiting by you. But yeah, fair. If you want to help get James to those central banks, you can also visit us at patreon.com. That's patreon.com/Drunkonomics. Get James that plane ticket. Get him to go stand in front of those central banks, the BOE,
say plane ticket,
the ECB.
And here's the thing, you're going to have to dig deep, because we're also going to need bail money. If I'm getting escorted out of these banks, it's probably not friendly.
You're just trying to help. I mean, honestly, what's so bad about that? But if you want to put a tip in the tip jar, you can visit us at Patreon there. Seriously, anything there is appreciated. Anything with merch is very much appreciated. I also want to say, on a quick side note, so not this coming week. This coming week is President's Day on Monday, but the week after, we're doing our quarterly break.
So last week in February, first week in March, that week we'll be off. So you'll have to go listen to old episodes. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. And maybe, because of that, that'll give us time to do I don't know, just a spontaneous hop on Discord.
Absolutely.
And a meet and greet with everybody. If you want to see our faces for whatever reason,
foolish.
Definitely
foolish.
Definitely put something over your eyes for protection if you do want to see our faces. But more than happy to do like a meet and greet, have a drink with all of you guys live. Maybe that week, I don't know, we'll see. But with that said, seriously, appreciate everything that you guys do. Every drink I've had with you guys, I've really, really enjoyed.
Has been more fun than the last one.
It really has. It really has. As this economics problem gets deeper, the drinks get tastier, and your company becomes much more enjoyable.
Absolutely.
Every single time.
The only thing we'd ask on top of just keep listening, keep hanging out, is go ahead and write us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps us in the algorithms, and it helps create more Drinkonomists, more Econoholics. It makes the conversation more diverse and more fun.
Yeah, and additionally, it helps you play chess, not checkers. It helps you fill and kill. Helps you not brag, just say. And most importantly, please, continue to keep doing this, because you guys have been doing such a great job. But continue to do, what's that one thing?
Just stay drunkonomical, guys.
Exactly. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.